The last several months have been awfully messy for the Zelda series. We've had a game release that was really good, but also really overhyped, and now there's a lot of backlash over that. And now there's the announcement of a movie and it's live action, and a lot of fans are up in arms about it. So today I thought I'd do a short video where we could look at something that's a little less important for the series and can be a little bit more casual. That being the side games of the series. Sprinkled in between the mainstream releases for the Legend of Zelda series, we often see these smaller, simpler Zelda games. Some of these, like Link's Crossbow Training, are simply very small in scope. Others, like Hyrule Warriors, are basically full-sized games, but are made by other studios hired by Nintendo and aren't counted as part of the Zelda canon. Most of them, however, are the 2D games, and that's what I want to focus on. Not counting the remakes, we haven't gotten a 2D Zelda game since Triforce Heroes in 2015. And that was a multiplayer game, which isn't the norm and is typically even smaller in scale than a normal 2D Zelda game. So at this point, we are about due for another 2D Zelda game. More than likely, we'll get another one of these smaller games before the next mainstream game, and possibly even before the movie is released. However, with just how long it's been since there's been a 2D release, not counting the remakes, some people have pointed out that the Zelda team might be done with making 2D Zelda games. I disagree with this for one simple reason. The games sell well for how much work is put into them. Now, Nintendo has been known to stop making games in the series because they ran out of ideas before. And that's a good thing, much better than dragging a series along until all of its games feel the same. So it's possible that the Zelda team is just taking a break from 2D Zelda. But whatever the reason is for the holdup, it's not a money issue. A 2D Zelda game is much cheaper, quicker, and easier to make than a full 3D game. And the profit of the 2D games more than makes up for their cost. So I think more than likely that the Zelda team just hasn't had any new ideas for the 2D part of the series for the last few years. Or maybe they've just all had their time soaked up in Tears of the Kingdom, which is also entirely possible. Now, it's very difficult to theorize about 2D Zelda games that much because they're side adventures a lot of the time, and often they're also fairly disconnected from the rest of the series insofar as their lore. So the content of the next 2D Zelda game, from our perspective at least, is completely up in the air. That being said, I do have one idea of what they might try in either the next 2D Zelda game or in a later one relatively soon in the future. Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link was a 2D Zelda game, but it was a side-scroller instead of a top-down game. Now, Zelda 2 used to be a notoriously hated Zelda game because of its unfair and gimmicky mechanics, but since the surge of new fans to the series after Tears of the Kingdom, I've noticed that Zelda 2 is suddenly getting a second look from the fans. Not necessarily because it's good, I think, but because it's unique. And this makes me wonder if we may soon see another side-scrolling Zelda game. Now, I admit my bias in this because I play a lot of Hollow Knight, Dead Cells, and Celeste, and I'd love to see Nintendo take another shot at a side-scrolling Zelda game. Especially if it was done in this more Castlevania-esque style that we've seen fan art of around in this community, and if Link got his grappling hook to differentiate the game from the other big 2D platformers that are around right now, that would basically be my dream 2D Zelda game. But most of those details aren't likely to ever happen. The platformer idea, though, I think might actually happen. After the somewhat repetitive design of Tears of the Kingdom, I think what the Zelda series really needs right now is variety. The series has 7 3D games, it has 12 top-down 2D games, it only has one platformer. It would make a lot of sense to explore platforming in the Zelda game again. But they might not, especially since Nintendo's main game series, Super Mario Bros., is already made up of primarily side-scrollers. So obviously this is entirely speculation, but I think it's also entirely possible. That thought is all I had for the day. Bye.